Hello, everybody. I'm Russell Hill, the host of WTF, and that's What the FixedOPS to You. We have another exciting guest lined up for this awesome episode today. So at the end, we'll say it again, just like I'm saying it right now. Like it, love it, comment, share on it, because it's going to be all over social media. I'm also joined by my co-host.
Hello, I'm Charity Dunning. I am the co-host here at WTF, and today we have Ed Roberts. He is the COO of Bozard Ford Lincoln.
Thank you, guys. Welcome. I appreciate you guys having me here today.
Welcome, Ed. We're really glad you're here. So thank you very much. And so I believe, this reaches a lot of people, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how I actually met you, but tell us who you are and what you do.
I do as little as possible.
Oh, I don't believe that.
I'm Ed Roberts. I'm the Chief Operations Officer here at Bozard Ford Lincoln. Been here nearly 10 years now. September of this year will be 10 years. And we have grown the store from being 43 employees almost 10 years ago to over 300 here today. And we've done that by serving our community, creating a culture that creates the environment that people want to be a part of.
Absolutely.
And created career paths for someone to come in an entry-level spot and grow into whatever role they want to be at in a car dealer.
That's amazing.
Excellent. How did you, Ed Roberts, get started in the car business?
I got started in the car business way back in 1992. Just looking for a job I grew up in the hood, so to speak, and I was looking for a job to kind of make something happen and get out on my own, and ended up at a Ford dealership as a tech apprentice, and the rest is history.
I met Ed, I think about a year and a half ago on FixedOPS Mastermind is where I first met him with Dave Foy. Just a phenomenal, I grew up on the variable side. So I have learned so much from people like Ed and the main core of people that are on FixedOPS marketing, but it's every Tuesday night. And I appeared every Tuesday night. I've seen a lot of people pop in and turn around and leave right away, or they stay for the whole show and then don't come back for whatever the reasons are. I have my own thoughts from them. Most of them are probably vendors like myself, I'm sure. But regardless, I learned a lot. Here's one of the things that I learned, and you just mentioned being from the hood. Whatever you went through, I think we all have defining moments where we pivot or we stop and, do we believe in something greater than ourselves? And what is this all about? Is it all about planes, trains, and automobiles and trading time for money, or is there a much deeper, significant meaning? And I've met myself a lot, and I'm going somewhere with this incidentally. I've met a lot of people in the industry that are leaders, but not all are servant leaders. And I think there's a distinction between the two. So I think it's important for everybody, because I hear you a lot. I see you a lot. You talk a lot about some of the things we are going to talk about that some people are vaguely familiar with. But what made Ed who Ed Roberts is today? Is there a defining moment like that in your life somewhere?
I think it was the moment of starting my first job in this business, because I was told no a few times, and then finally someone decided to give me an opportunity. And since that, I've wanted to give others opportunities as well, because there is people out there that just needs that chance. And sometimes they make the most of it, sometimes they don't. But I, like you said, servant leadership, I certainly don't want to be a command and control kind of guy. I want to give that and let them bring back what the results are. And when you do that, they astound you, and what people can astound you in what they can really do.
Very true. I had the pleasure when I was hiring a new regional manager, and I went to St. Augustine to visit Ed. And like I said before, I've seen him on his Zoom calls and podcasts and stuff like that. And something I learned about St. Augustine, correct me if I'm wrong, memory, right? But that St. Augustine is the oldest city in the United States.
It is the oldest city in the United States. It's over 450 years old. And if you look at it from that aspect, the United States is really not that old. We got countries over in Europe that are thousands of years old, but for the U.S., that is the oldest city. It's 457 years old now.
Well, I got to tell you, about my experience when seeing the dealership driving up was really phenomenal. And I've been in and out of dealerships and in this business since '85. So when Ed greeted us, this is the way I remembered anyway. We sat down in his office for about 3 to 5 minutes, somewhere thereabouts, and talked business briefly. And then I was overwhelmed and very humbled with approximately the next hour and a half, somewhere right in there, where he toured me and Brandon through the entire facility and pointed out things, some of which I would have saw anyway, about the care and concern with people overlooking and seeing huge buildups of dust, and the restaurant that they had. I'm not going to talk too much about the bathroom, although it's pretty exciting as well. But I learned that Ed Roberts, that your actions consistently match your words. You are a true servant leader. You do give back. You do empower people. And either that was learned through hard knocks of what you knew that you didn't want, whatever it may be, reading, mentorship, all those things above. I was completely overwhelmed in that gathering that we had, and it was truly amazing. So, how did you transition from the fixed ops director, because you were that for 9 of the 10 years, to COO? I'm sure there's a story there.
Well, it's about creating an environment that people want to be a part of. And then as that continues to grow and compound, it starts to organically grow. And then wanting to put those elements into other elements of the business is where it all ties together. And let's take what we do here and instill it in the variable department as well. And then when we get that working together as a team and continue to compound on culture and the environment that we want, then that ball just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and it's rolling downhill, and it gets so much easier to keep growing, and because everybody's pushing in the same direction. But it really starts with intentionality of hiring the right people. And I talk about the 3 C's and some of the broadcasts that I do, and that's hiring people with character, the right character that fits who you want to be represented as, chemistry, people that fit in, and competency. Competency is a little bit of a variable because don't necessarily have to be able to do the job, but you have to be capable of learning how to do the job and be willing to learn how to do the job. And if you continuously check those boxes as much as possible, the character piece is a judgment call. The chemistry piece somewhat is judgment, but you can figure that out.
Sure.
And if you continue to dance on those 3 C's and you hire the right people that you can check those boxes with, then you can continue to push that through. But when you dance away from that and I think I got to have people, and if somebody shows up that is really a disruptor to what you're doing, you spend all your time reacting to the disruptions that person's causing you, and it really robs your time and backs the business up. So it starts with being intentional of putting the right people in the right places. And there's people that I would consider disruptors at our business that thrive at another store, but they don't operate in the same atmosphere that we operate in.
That's true. You can get people in there that can actually be cancerous. So you do whatever due diligence you go through to get the right people. You have amassed quite a team, because you introduced me to a lot of those people, and they stopped. And I've seen a lot of service departments, but I'm all the different bays that you had, and what I saw, I mean, I'm not going to do it obviously, but you could eat off the floor. I mean, it was that organized and clean. It's not like Ed Roberts had everybody stop because Russell Hill is coming to look at the dealership. No, I'm far from being the truth. So that was really amazing, and particularly the team. And I really do believe together everyone achieves more. It's really important in our company as well. We have quite an amazing team, the best that I've actually ever had. And you just let people do what they do, and make sure they're trained or they have the capability, that I think one thing that I noticed, which is true about our culture as well as yours, is that people want to know that they count, that they matter, they make a difference, and that they're able to contribute something or ask a question without feeling persecuted or judgmented. And that's something I noticed that you and everybody that I met there that day, I felt that way. There was an aura that was felt, and it's not just by me; it's by anybody that comes in there. Although that restaurant's pretty amazing too, I must admit.
That helps with the cool factor for sure.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Now, the pandemic, it was a horrible thing for everybody. A lot of lives lost, disrupted not only the United States, but the entire world, obviously. When that happened, I think I met you shortly thereafter, probably, 5 or 6 months into it, because everybody was on Zoom, et cetera. But how did that impact your thinking and thinking outside of the box? And what did you learn about technology? Obviously, because everybody went to Zoom, nobody was used to doing that, et cetera. Can you tell us, was there anything that stands out at you?
Well, let's talk about dealers as a whole there. Dealers as a whole has always been resistant to change. We do things this way because that's the way we've always done it. And there's always better ways to do things. And we're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of that sometimes too. And as much as I try not to be, sometimes it just becomes easier to do it the way you know how to do it rather than find a more effective way or more efficient way to do it. And what COVID brought to everybody is said, hey, if you don't change, you're going to die. And not necessarily die physically, and there was some that did, very unfortunately, but we had to change the way we did business fundamentally. And we had to, rather than drag someone into the store, find ways to go see them at their place of business or their home or their safe place, whatever that may be. And we just happened to be in the car business, and people's automobile really became their safe zone. Pull up to pick up pizza, and they'd open the trunk, and somebody put the pizza in the trunk, and there'd be no contact there and whatever else. And drive-throughs went crazy. And as long as they was in their vehicle or in their home, they felt safe. And so we shifted to, how do we allow customers to stay with their vehicle or with their home, either with us bringing them a vehicle because they have an issue with theirs and we need to sell them another vehicle, or if we need to service theirs, whatever it may be. And we really ramped up. We was already doing mobile business before pandemic, mobile service. But that really allowed us the opportunity to really ramp that up and bring it to a whole new level. So we really capitalized on mobile service, but the foundation was already there. And then pickup and delivery and remote deliveries. When we thought we had to have that wet signature on a contract to sell somebody a vehicle, we found out there's ways to overcome that. And one thing, car dealers have always been resistant to change, but they've also been very resilient. We survived through recessions and we survived through all those things. Once they realized that we had to change, we then became very resilient and have cleaned up our business and thrived on the other side of this, or as we come out of this. I'm not going to call it the other side yet, but as we come out.
Sure.
But it allowed us to strengthen our business because we did not lay off anybody. And thankfully, we didn't have to, we was allowed to stay open because we was considered essential. And business dropped from drive up business slowed down. I can't say it stopped, it slowed down.
Sure.
So we had to increase the amount of mobile that we was doing, but there was also people here that we may not have had enough business to keep them busy, and we just redirected what they do. And that's where the level of trust comes into place when you got a strong culture to where, hey, we're going to get through this and we're going to get through this together. Until we do, I need you to do this. And they just stepped right up and did it. So we remodeled some of our buildings, we refreshed some of our stuff, reorganized how we do things. We really freshened our business quite a bit. And then as people started resigning from their jobs because of other things, fear that they're having to deal with public or whatever else, when the Great Resignation hit, it really put people out there in the marketplace that are very capable individuals. It wasn't necessarily that they all don't want to work or they're whatever. There was some of that, but
Sure.
that's when you got to really have something to latch on to. There's really opportunity to go out and get some good talent that is just looking for a career path. They was at a job that they felt like was dead end. And because it was dead end and because it put them at risk, they wanted to leave. So it allowed us to really strengthen our business as well with picking up some of those people from the Great Resignation. And we've grown in double digits each year since I've been here, including the pandemic years. And that's a pretty astounding.
Yes, it is.
To grow at that rate.
It is.
Absolutely. What is your message to new recruits or new hires? How do you sell them on wanting to work there?
Well, the sell today is much different than it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was selling with a vision, and we still sell with a vision now, but I can also showcase the place. And as you hear with Russ coming to the store, he was blown away by being here. When you turn that vision into a reality, and then you can paint the vision of where we're still going from here and show them the reality, the current reality, it becomes very easy to sell. And anybody that's been at another dealer and they come here, they're going to question themselves to why they're not here. It's a very cool place to be because it's a fun vibe, but also from the environment, the work environment, it's the best place to be. And I want to paint that picture. And then I also want to showcase that with them as well. But with people starting a career, we get involved as early and often as possible. I invite high schools here for field trips.
Oh, wow.
I'm involved with a lot of technical schools. So when they graduate high school and they go to technical school, I'm involved with them there. So they see me on a frequent basis. And then as they get towards the end of that, we're the only employer that they think about because we're the ones that's been in front of them the whole time. But that's another piece of intentionality. That's not a piece where I'm trying to chase today. I'm really planning for tomorrow.
That's really smart.
Wow. Yeah, well said. On the change thing, in my life anyway, and I'm sure it's probably true for most, at least where I resist change the most, actually is probably right where I need to change. And instead of saying that we've always done it this way, and I had some, pivots in my life and mentors in my life. And I realized at one point in time, because I was open, like when the student's ready, the teacher will appear type of thing, where before I'd always cast dispersions on certain types of people and the things that they said. But I realized that I really was sum total of who I am today, based upon everything I've seen, heard, read, and done up until this moment. And of course, the definition to sanity is keep doing the same things, but expecting different results. So I don't even know if this is true and if it came from Albert Einstein, but the significant problems and challenges that we face today can't be solved with the same level of thinking used to create them. So something's going to have to change. And I only found 3 things that really affect what I or we want to become tomorrow. We have to start today by inputting new information. So we have to, 95% of the population, right? They get their information from the same 95% of the population that has what they have or less than what they have, and they wonder why the hell they don't have anymore. Well, why don't you look at who you're associating with? Why don't you examine what you're listening to? And most of them aren't reading. Why don't you try reading a few minutes a day and see if that helps promote that, hey, the low self-esteem, lack of conviction, and you can't have this, or I tried that won't work. Those people are interrupted by people who just did. Does that apply to you as well, Ed?
Absolutely. We have to keep things in front of us. And if we keep going with the same methods, then we're going to get to the same results. It's like, let's call it someone that struggles with their finances. They may make enough money to live well, but they have habits that causes them to be in those positions. Mm-hmm. And they have to change. It isn't that they go make more money because they go make more money, they're just going to spend more.
Spend more, right? Exactly.
They have to change who they are. And there's different elements that we can relate to that, but that's just one that's easily relatable, because I think that's something that we learn going through life, is we all put ourselves in that position and realize, okay, well, that maybe wasn't so smart because I got to think about what I got to do. And that's the first thing, one of the first things that we usually recover from. But it's just about identifying. A lot of times when we look at each other and we tell somebody what's wrong with something, we say, here's what's wrong, fix that, don't mess with me, I'm okay. But really what we're saying is, I'm just as much of that problem. So It's easy for me to identify it.
That's
But
right.
I'm not going to change. I'm still the resistant one, and we have to open up a bit there.
Yeah, you can predict almost 30 days what those people are going to be doing and what they're going to look like for sure. My son learned some very valuable lessons, and he one of them, he kept spending more money, like what you were talking about. Each time he made more. He's in the car business too, doing extremely well. And a few years ago, he finally, I don't know what it is, but he's been in the car business for 7 years now. And after the first 6 or 8 months, he didn't listen to dad anymore. And I've been in it most of my life. That's okay, and he fell, and all that kind of stuff. But I just told him, I said, Ryan, it's never, never. I mean, it's part of the equation, but it's not really how much you make. It's how much you keep.
Exactly. It's how you deal with it. It's how you
That's
manage
right.
it.
Absolutely.
And that is with so many things in life, not just finances, but so many things in life, whether it's business, whether it's personal life, whether it's financial life, whether it's, it's just so many different things.
Yeah. One of the qualities that I seem to have noticed about you over the last, 2 years now is that you don't appear to be a control freak. Now your wife and kids may say something different. I don't really know. But what I mean by that is something I learned that was very valuable, although I struggle with from time to time, is thinking that I can actually control people, places, and things. And I found that's the grand delusion. I really don't have any control over that. However, I do have control on how I act and react to it. And you always seem to be very steady and very calm and deliberate. Where did that come from?
Well, people want to be led, and they look at who's, sometimes it's the position that they look at to what do they do, and maybe they want to grow into that position and they mimic it. And I want to be a good role model, and I tell people a lot that being a good leader is very similar to being a parent. A lot of times with command and control, somebody does something wrong, we go slap them around and tell them to do that again, you're fired. Well, think about when you helped your kid ride their bicycle the first time they fell off of it, and you got to pick them up and they're all scraped up and bruised up. And you say, "What'd you do that for?" No, it's going to be okay. That's what we're going to try this again. And they need that encouragement. Well, those elements of people doesn't change no matter how old they are. We change it how we deal with them. But people will astound you in what they do when you encourage them, and what they can really do when you encourage them to get there. And that's my deal, is I want to empower them to do those things. I want to give up control rather than keep control. Another example I'll get, and go back to parenting. I used to have Life 360 on my daughter, and we all know what Life 360 is now for the most part, where we can track where everybody's at and their phone charge and how fast they drove and whatever else.
Uh-huh.
And when she broke her phone, and we had to replace it, I said, "You need to download the app. It's not working." She looked at me. She said, "Dad, do I have to?" And I thought about it for a minute, and the normal reaction would be, "Yes, you need to do that so I can keep up, so we know where everybody's at." But I thought about it for a few minutes, and I said, "You have the right to earn not having it on your phone. And the first time that there's a hiccup here or there, we're going to talk about putting it on there." And never once did I have an issue. Now she's graduated and she's making a life of her own, and I gave her that control, and she didn't abuse it. But there was going to be a repercussion if she did, and she knew that, and she followed. Now, can you do that with everybody? No, but being able to identify that in the ones that you can and give them that control, then they show you what they can really do.
I think that's great. Patience, love, tolerance, and understanding. It's amazing how really those parenting skills carry over to your business side of things and how you deal with people. And let's face it, there's a lot of parents that don't really manage their kids well. Like, for example, many years ago, but one of the kids had a computer in his bedroom, and he wanted to keep the door closed. And I said, "Absolutely not. You're not keeping the door closed." It's something, and it turns out that he wasn't doing the right things with it. So we took it out of his, look, he resisted, and he got angry and frustrated and upset, but there's consequences for your actions. And people, even though they may push back and they don't think they need to be accountable, I think that we all deep down want to be led, and we want to be accountable. We really do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you give them that opportunity and they don't abuse it, then they are rowing in the boat with you in the same direction.
Ooh, I love rowing in the boat with you. That's great.
Yes.
So you earlier you talked about mobile, and I don't know exactly how many. I think it's 10. You have 10 mobile trucks now, or are some of those still being built out in a previous?
Some of those are still being built. I have 5 on the ground and rolling, and I'm now chasing 11 because there's 6 being built because we have configured, and it should be en route to us. We configured and built a tire truck as well, to where all, and that's to address BEVs that's coming into the marketplace and that kind of stuff, because those things are going to need some levels of service, but there's not very much service that those vehicles will need that have to come to the dealership for.
That's great.
So we got to shift to making sure that we can do that. But we run 5. With each of those, I have 2 people on them. I don't know that I'll stay with 2 on all of them as we go forward, because I want to narrow down that area that each one of them are in. Right now, if a vehicle needs to come back, the truck can keep going, and one can bring the vehicle back if it does need to come back for whatever reason. But mobile is the Amazon of service. We bring automobile service to a customer's doorstep, wherever that doorstep may be.
Customers love it. They love to be met where they're at, and they've in the past haven't been able to do that. I think that's been accelerated, like everything's been accelerated and thinking out of the box with the pandemic. I was talking to you may know the name, may not. You know Glenn Lundy? You heard the name?
Yep.
So great guy. I mean, I'm not a friend of his or anything, but we've had some encounters and some discussions, and he was talking at NADA, which I thought was amazing. So I use every opportunity to say as much as possible. But he said he was talking about technology and how it's moved from 1922 to 2022 over the last 100 years. And he said in the next 5 years, technology is going to move that same 100 years. I don't care if it's virtual reality, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, blockchain, all the new stuff coming down the road. But I think equally part of that equation is thinking outside the box like you are. And dealers that I think that are in your position that aren't thinking about today, but not only today, but tomorrow and where this is going. And if they don't stay ahead of the curve, they're going to get gobbled up. Now, I only know this from NADA that for every franchise dealer, there's 16 non-franchise entities. So now you're doing the tires, you're doing the mobile service, and these are things that really lock people because of that to who you are and what your dealership represents to the community and all the things that you're involved in. I think everybody needs to be doing, but they're not doing it, Ed. And do you know, I mean, is it because they're resistant to change still, or?
Those elements are because, yes, they're still resistant to change. And I will tell you that from a loyalty standpoint, let's look at it from your household. If you was to buy a product from me and I come service it every single time at your place of business or at home, and you never had to come back into the dealer, and then when it was time to buy that next vehicle you purchased from me, and you didn't have to come to the dealer for that. You knew what you want. I ordered your vehicle. I got you the exact color, didn't give you anything that you didn't want, so you didn't have to pay for anything that you didn't desire having or settle for something, because we've created that relationship. Then that keeps going. But your wife's vehicle, you keep having to pick her up from the car dealer when she drops it off and whatever else. Now all of a sudden you're having that conversation of, I need to put you in something else, because I'm not keep coming up here and picking you up or whatever else, right? Take Uber. So just in the same household, having those 2 to compare from, who's going to win? The convenience.
Absolutely.
Same thing with Target or Amazon. They both have it. I can get it from Target today if I want to drive down there, but I settle for getting it tomorrow from Amazon because it's the same price. It's exactly what I want.
Yep.
I'm not going to be targeted with something that I don't want while I'm at Target.
No, that convenience, just like what you're talking about. There's a convenience store. Imagine the name, how it got its name, convenience. So a gallon of milk it's gone super high inflated, but let's say at the convenience store, 45 seconds to a minute from my house, a gallon of milk is $7.35, where it's $5.25 at Walmart. Okay. Which one is really cheaper? And most people will default to Walmart. Well, it's not, because of the convenience. My time is valuable, wear and tear on the car. You're not going to walk out of there with just a gallon of milk because it's strategically placed at the farthest reaches of where the store at for a reason, right? Because it's how much. So I think what you're doing is pretty much the same thing. They're locked into you for stuff like that. And I'm sure there's, because we don't have, I'm sure there's an extra charge for that. But I'm going to tell you what, I would gladly pay whatever that is just for the convenience and the trust that I feel.
So I want to touch on that for a second, because you're right. There was an extra charge, and we're shifting from that, because we would charge what we would charge here in the dealer, and then a fee to come see you. Who likes a fee?
Nobody.
And but
Not
like
when, not when it's said that way. Well, we have to charge you a fee, right?
Right.
Oh,
when
right.
yeah, like you just said with the convenience store and going to Walmart, it's $7 here or it's $5 there. Well, it's the price of what it is for me to come to you. So now we have a mobile menu that's what these prices are, to where, hey, we can come to you for this price, blah, 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 blah. And it's never an issue of, well, can you waive the fee? There's none of that. So we've just changed price models on it to where it's kind of that convenience charge built into it, rather than stamping it as a convenience charge.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you cleared that up, because I've heard a lot of people that are getting into the mobile game about charging these fees. Well, you got the mobile prices, and you got the in-store, prices, whichever one is more convenient for you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, there's the Amazon pricing or the eBay pricing. If you're willing to wait a couple weeks, you can pay the cheaper fee, or like you said, Ed, if you want it tomorrow,
Yep.
pay that extra fee.
Yep. There's the convenience that comes with it.
Yeah. So tell us, Ed, what inspires you? Why do you get up in the morning? What gets you going?
I like to watch people grow. I like to watch people grow beyond their what they perceive to be their highest potential. And I have someone that works for me that tells me all the time that every time I reach out to them to do something different, they say, no, I'm not doing that. And the next thing you know, they're embracing it and they're doing it beyond what you thought they was capable of doing. But it is learning who people are and putting them in positions for them to succeed. And when you do that, that is extremely gratifying to me, to watch them grow and flourish and become who they can become.
Isn't that beautiful? It's too bad all companies don't do that.
True.
Imagine what that would be like.
Right. We're certainly blessed for people, because it comes with trust. Because I'm pushing people out of their comfort zone to get them to do something different.
Bingo.
Then they embrace it.
Right.
So yeah, there's levels that has to come along the way, but once you have it, you can move mountains.
There is a servant leader right there, challenging people to be the best they can be, coming out of their shell, getting outside of their comfort zone. Yeah, look, we all like to be comfortable. I get it. So some people like no. It's important to stretch and get beyond your comfort zone, because your comfort zone is everything that you're familiar with and comfortable with, and it doesn't require much. But when somebody stretches you and you achieve it's really amazing. So my mentor a long time ago, because I was ready, pushed me outside of my comfort zone, because there's two kinds of fear of what you know and fear of what you don't know. That's it. People will sometimes, even though they know the consequences could be dire, at least they know what the consequences are going to be, because they're comfortable and they understand that fear. Now, the unknown fear, that's the stuff that's where life is. That's where you level up. That's where you move up. That's where you dig inside and realize who you are. And in that, you find that in order to keep that, you got to continue giving that away. And that's exactly the type of servant leader that I see that you are. And you're not going to correct me, right?
I certainly try to be. I agree with that. And I'll break that down to another step.
Okay. Yeah.
Because one of the things that really help people succeed is celebrating the small victories. And we talk about that and we hear that, but what is that really? Well, you have to create the atmosphere to celebrate those small victories. So yes, in the car business, we're in a monthly business, and you can have a good month. And then the first, you start all over. It's clean slate. You're nothing until you have another good month again. You're only as good as the last month you delivered. And what we like to do here is break things down into daily goals. Our people come to work every day. They need to know whether they can check the box as we made that happen, or we didn't make that happen. And when you can celebrate those victories, when you can break it all the way down, that we look at it from a month, especially when you move somebody into a new role, you give them a monthly target, you think, oh my God, I'll never do that. But when you break it down, this is all you have to do a day. Now they can, when they're 80% of the way there, they'll push themselves to get the other 20%, and then celebrate those victories. Create the victories to celebrate, but make sure you celebrate the small victories, because that's when they want to do more of that.
It is that's an important part of the mix to grow people, I believe.
Absolutely.
And they need to be recognized, but more importantly, they need to have the self-esteem to realize, hey, I just did that. And I think it kind of goes back to when I first wanted to make some significant changes in my life. My mentor knew that I was ready, and he was an extremely wealthy guy. And I've met wealthy people that are leaders. I mean, they're leaders, but they have too much status, and they really don't contribute or give back. They have their own struggles, love them where they're at. But this guy was different, which is why I gravitated to him. So one of the things he mentioned, which is, he asked me if I was reading, and I said, no, I wasn't reading. And so he gave me a book, Dale Carnegie, and How to Win Friends and Influence People. And he said, listen, I need you. This is what I want you to do. I'm going to give you this book, and you're going to read 15 minutes a day, not 14 minutes, not 20 minutes, 15. I didn't realize what was going on in the discipline of the 15 minutes, but I didn't read it all. And I said, oh yeah, I can do that. He said, no. It's a little bit more difficult than most people think. But if you do what I'm asking you to do, I will start. This is a good place to start, and we'll get together once a month. And if you continue to do these types of things, and these types of things happen, then I'll continue to work with you. But when you stop taking my suggestions, which all that, you don't have to take them, but this is what you told me you wanted to do, and I'm going to show you how to get there. And my whole world changed in 6 months, not a year. And I became addicted to reading and thinking outside the box, and all the little nuances and nuggets. And a lot of it had to do with short-term goals, and recognizing, we think, oh, that's insurmountable. I got to wait until I have a degree, and the temperature has to be this. I have to have this kind of car. Before you even get started, you'll be looking back. It's just horrible.
Right. Because we tell ourselves we'll do something when I get time to, and we never make time for it. But if we set goals, and that's what we're chasing, not only does it give you something to celebrate, but it builds confidence.
It really does.
What you're talking about, Russell, is compound interest.
Yes.
In both in life and financially, it works in every way. Just adding a little bit every day, and it compounds over time.
Yeah.
And you're having great benefits from it.
This is so true when you talk about compounding. And I think I got this from him. I could be wrong, but he asked me, this is the mentality people think. And he wanted me to just whatever my initial response without thinking through. But he said, I'm going to give you $1 million right now, or you take a penny that doubles every day for 31 days. Which one would you take? Well, I said, immediately $1 million. And he said, well, you left $9,733,000 on the table. I didn't understand compounding and those principles. And it was a penny that doubles every day. Come on. The magic happens on the 31st day, not 30th day, but 31st. Anyway, I thought it was really amazing. And I'll tell you, it is so important to give back. Anyway, I'm sitting here thinking about all these. We haven't hardly even talked about the car business. We're talking about life and life vision. But these are the things that make us who we are. These are, people gravitate towards us for a reason. And I know you're very busy. And what I found is, the busier people are, those people will tend to make time for you. People that don't, that aren't busy, they don't have any time. I don't know where that, but it's so true, right?
Exactly. It's priorities.
Yeah.
What about you, Ed? Do you have any mentors, or have you had any mentors? Anyone that inspires you?
I have several. But certainly the guy that gave me a chance and gave me a job way back in 1992 we became mentors to each other. He's about 10 years older than I am, but we lean on each other for a lot of life things. So I would say that's number one. But then I have a few others, some authors and some friends that I've made along the way that continue to not necessarily be a mentor, but continue to inspire me to push forward and do more and make as much of an impact as possible.
I hear that's phenomenal. I think everybody should have go-to people like that. I do. And I I don't really like, I don't know the best way to say this. I have different people I go to for different things, relationships, finances, other, self-growth, in my life, etc. When I get into conversations with people, yes, people like to talk and exchange. And, of course, the best part of a conversation was when, one listens, right? And I do it. I try to, I'm not trying. I'm better and better and better than I used to be about listening to people to understand instead of to respond. That's difficult for me sometimes because my mind moves so fast. And I think it's really important that people, you know what? I forgot where I was going with that. I just had a brain fart.
But you're exactly right.
Here's where I was going with it. If the branches are bare, au contraire, I don't go there. So if people have fruit on the tree, they really have something to offer. But for example, and this is years and years and years ago, so somebody is in a challenging relationship with their wife, for example, okay? There's three kinds of people that they go to get advice, right? But it's not really advice. They want to feel like, what they're thinking is right. No. So they go to people that do not haven't been in relationships, wrong person to go to. Somebody that's in and out of relationships all the time, wrong person to go to. Someone that's in a relationship, but it's extremely unhealthy and everybody can tell. Those aren't the people you go to if you really want to make some changes. If you want them to side with you, to reinforce and send you down the wrong hole, certainly. So I think it's important when people are talking about today, like the rear view mirror in a car, you can reflect back on the past. But when I get into conversations with people, I try to move them, as you do, to what's going on today and where they would like to go and how I can help them do that. But if I can't get them off that talking about the past and that's all they talk about, it's time for me to move on because I just really don't have that. They're not interested, right? They're not interested. You meet those kind of people, don't you?
Absolutely. And we can't do anything about the past. It's done. It's written in stone. All we can do is control what's in front of us. But it's the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So we think, man, if I keep doing and we get locked in on, I can't do that again. And what I like to paint the picture is all it takes is a different action to get a different reaction. And let's do something a little bit different and we can all win from it. But as long as we're looking at the past, all it's going to do is prevent us, and this is what you have to do in business, it's going to prevent us from taking the risks that we need to take to move to that next step. And so we have to look forward, forget about the past. You have to have that short memory and look forward and think, okay, that didn't work that way. Let me find a new way for that to work. Not that that won't work. I got to find a different way for it to work. And you just got to keep painting that picture and pushing the past to be the past and not letting it live in it.
Mm-hmm. I had a grandfather who had all of these tattoos all over his arms, and he would never tell me what they meant or what they were. And I didn't realize until after he passed away when I grew up. He was in some motorcycle gang like a long time ago, but he had separated himself from that, wouldn't speak a word of it, left it in the dust, and probably hopefully thought nobody would ever find out. But
he couldn't change it, but he moved away from it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What are some of your goals, Ed, for the next 5-10 years? Speaking of the future.
I want to continue to make an impact. And is there a position that I'm looking for? There's not. When I'm gone, I want people to be able to reflect back and say that he helped me with this. And if there's people that can do that, then I've won. And if I can continue to give back and give somebody different perspectives to look at, then that is what's gratifying to me. It's not a monetary reward. Yeah, there's in my positions, there's rewards that comes with that. But the biggest reward is the difference that I've made in people's lives. And I want to continue to progress and be able to do that going forward.
Wow. That's it. That's the legacy, right? That you impacted. It's thousands of lives, tens of thousands. We don't even recognize. I think sometimes we suffer from terminal uniqueness and this separate from everybody else. But it's like you picture a sandy white beach, and I'm one grain of sand, but I'm part of that whole picture. And that's so important. And I think that we try to be so separate. People get choked. They get choked off from we have more in common than we ever probably really want to freely admit, because we have to protect those secrets. We have to protect our lack of self-esteem or lack of conviction, or a why. How about that? We have to protect our why. Because what I found when you're in junior high or high school, you listen to young adults, and they have these phenomenal, they're just getting started, like your daughter just graduated, right? Got all these great things they want to go out and accomplish. And then they get sucked into trading their time for money, and they get off track, and whatever that original why was. And I think that's more important than anything else. But the older we get, the harder it is to draw that why. And when we do, it's pretty emotional for some of us, of what we really would like to do, but we never had, we weren't open. The right person didn't come along, which I doubt that to be the case. But when you moved from fixed ops director to COO, that's a pretty big shift. Did you have some hesitations?
No hesitations. I was ready for the challenge, and I look forward to do it, because the variable departments in most car dealers, everybody's kind of a dog eat dog kind of world. It's not necessarily the inner support where everybody mashes together and rows in the same direction. It's kind of everybody's in their own canoe, rowing in their own direction.
Right.
And so I embrace that. Hey, let's take that on and drive that a bit. And it's been fun. It is shifting to something that you don't typically see in the car business, but people are getting on board every single day, and it is a fun ride, and that ride up is always fun, and that ride never has to end, because it's not a destination, we're on a journey.
Right.
And if you get to the top of the hill, you keep building. You got to build that hill higher. And that's all it was, hey, we just moved to a different level of the hill. It's time to keep going up.
That's great. Yeah. So a lot of people, I'm one of them, many years ago, but it was always about the next thing that I wanted to get. And I was relentless and passionate about it. I wore my parents out. When I would get that thing, it would be victory and elation and this smile and over, this attitude, but it would quickly leave. And then it was on to the next. It was always on to the next. And I seemed to miss a lot in my life up until about 27 years ago, because all I can remember is the next. I couldn't remember stopping to smell the flowers and enjoying the journey while I was on the ride. So that very well said. That's great. Yes.
Yeah,
That's
celebrate
hard
those
to teach
victories.
a young child.
Right. Say
Yes.
what, Charity?
I said that mentality is really difficult to teach a younger person or child. If you grow up with that more, slowing down and learning to respect time it's very difficult to teach.
It is, but that's where parenting comes in, right? And yeah, of
That's
course,
celebrating those small victories.
that's right. Celebrating those small victories. For a long time, I held resentments to my father, who was a phenomenal dad. The indelible imprints that he had on my work ethic and character and integrity. But he was climbing that ladder of success. That's what they did. I don't want to tell everybody how old I am, but that's what they did back in the day. And he accomplished a lot, and we are closer now than we ever have been. And of course, if he could go back, he would do some things differently. He would spend less time doing some of the things he did, because he could have accomplished them with less time. Are those some things that you figured out as well, and with your family and the balance? It's about balance, isn't it, Ed?
It is, and I think we're continuously figuring that stuff out, because there's things that I wish I could have done differently yesterday, and we have to keep that in front of us. But as we do, then we don't do that same thing again. But yes, when I first got into this business, as I stated in the beginning of this, I grew up in the hood, grew up extremely poor. And I thought the only way to get out is to work extremely hard. So I got, and that's true in some cases, but there's a difference in being busy and being effective. And initially, I got the job at the Ford dealer, and then I got another job at a buy here, pay here lot. Then I got another job as a repo man, and I'm working 3 jobs, and I'm married. Well, what I wasn't really doing was giving time to my family life. And so it cost me early on. And yes, would I make changes going back? Certainly. But there has to be that balance. And it isn't something that at this time I'm stopping so I can go be. No, you have to create that. You have to create that balance, and you have to empower people around you so that things keep going even outside of your presence so that you can have that balance.
So when you mentioned the hood, which you have a couple of times now, that represents a picture in people's mind. And to not get sucked into what the hood could possibly represent, the victim, I'm a victim and I'm going to get mine, etc. Did that ever happen with you? Or was there something, I'm just curious, significant where you said that that's not for me? Because you were a young man, still learning and developing and all that kind of stuff. And did that happen, or were you just resolved that the drugs and the alcohol and that criminal behavior or whatever, because people would associate that with the hood? How did that escape you?
Well, my family grew up that way, certainly. My sister, my oldest sister, oldest of the family, passed away as a crackhead. And
Sorry.
Thankfully, being the 5th child, I was able to, and why that happened, I don't know, but I was able to look at them and see some of their mistakes and say, I got to do something different. And it was tough. And when I say the hood, I'm saying I was homeless getting into this business. I didn't have a place that I could call home, and my family was that way. And when I went out to get a job, they would say, you can't make it out there with the real world. You're not those people. This is who you are. And I chose to, I'm going to see if there is something different. Maybe I am, maybe I ain't, but I'm not going to know if I just hang out with you guys. And some of them still live that life, and some don't. But it's a choice. And that was a choice that I got to make. But I'm not certain that I would have been able to make that choice if I wouldn't have watched the ones in front of me make those decisions to stay in drugs and all that stuff and the crime and all those things that keeps you there. I was able to learn from them. And hopefully I would have been able to learn from somebody else if I'd have been older, been one of the first kids. But I wasn't. I was a 5th, and I learned from my siblings. That's probably not what I want to do.
They kind of paved the way for you, didn't they?
It's a blessing.
They showed me that door was not the one I wanted to follow after. Yes.
Yeah. Well, your transparency is very humbling, and thank you very much. Maybe some people know that, a lot don't, but you know what? That's who.
Can't control where you came from.
That's right. That's Ed Roberts. That's part of what you have become today. Without that, who knows what you would have been? And we all are. We just have to, not regret the past or wish to close the door on it, right? Keep moving and accepting, hey, that's what happened, but that doesn't define who I am.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So, wow, we hardly ever have even talked about the car business that much. So I know you're on a lot of, more than I could ever even imagine, boards and stuff, and you're talking about this kind of stuff all the time. I would like to ask you though, how important, and I could be off, but there's a 36 to 39 month defection rate with manufacturers, right? And it seems that line seems as to go up, about the time the warranty period's over, and also tires are needed on the vehicle about that length of time. Is there a direct correlation between those two? And if we did a better job on the tire side, would it impact retaining customers?
It's a couple of things on that. And this is what the FixedOPS, and
that's right.
Truly, that's what the business has been forever. FixedOPS has been an afterthought. But let's look at the ownership experience from a customer standpoint. And the ownership experience is, I meet a salesperson once, maybe I drive it home and I meet them the second time, but the transactional piece of it is either a day or a couple of days long, and they're done. And the service department is multiple times a year, usually around 2 times a year that I'm going to see you. And if I had the vehicle for 5 years, then I come see you 10 times. And we've put so much of an emphasis on that sales transaction and not necessarily the 10 transactions. And those 10 transactions is what drives that next sales transaction. And not just the dealers are guilty of that, but the manufacturers are guilty of it as well. And I preach that in some of the warranty summits that I go to and stuff, because we make it very tough for manufacturers to be able to take care of a customer's needs while they're under their warranty period. And we have to seek this prior approval. We have to take pictures and send to the manufacturer and wait for 2 days for it to get an answer. And what we're really telling the customer is, hey, we don't believe there's a problem with your vehicle, or we don't believe the dealer that you took it to, so we're not going to fix your vehicle, even though we told you we're going to cover it for 3 years. And so it becomes this grind for a customer to get through that period of time where they really are married to you. They're married to you through that warranty period, because why pay for it if it's covered? I may have some friction, but why pay for it? So they stick it out through there, and then when they don't have to stick it out through that anymore, they don't. And then they're chasing a different experience. So that's why they defect from you. And if you can shift to what the FixedOPS and make that service experience or that ownership experience better, because when you buy a product, you typically buy for the service after the sale. And we haven't really focused on that as much as we need to in a car dealer. And when you do that and you make that ownership experience what a customer would like to have, where we service on their terms rather than our terms, and we come to them and pick up their vehicle, or we come to them and service their vehicle at their place of business, then there's not the defection. They don't look away from you to go find another brand. And we're a store that spends very little money driving new business in, because we spend so much time focusing on the business that we have and making that ownership experience as smooth as possible to where they want to shift into it. And that's what we got to do. We got to focus. Yes, we're going to sell. Ford owns almost 15% of the market, so that's going to happen organically.
Sure.
But then let's take that and make that ownership experience the best experience that customer has ever had. It doesn't matter whether it's Mercedes or it's a full line or whatever else. It's the ownership experience that we can deliver. And if we can deliver the best ownership experience, the best portion of, I'm losing the word I'm looking for, conquest, the best form of conquest is retention.
Yep.
Take care of the ones that you have, and you won't have to continuously conquest, because not only will you keep them, but they will do the conquesting for you.
That's right.
As soon as someone's telling them about their experience, they're saying, I don't know why you're still doing business with them. You should be doing business over here. And so they will. That's
what the FixedOPS right there. All the things that you've talked about, the culture, the community, the atmosphere, the small victories, the large victories, meeting the customer where they're at, whether it be mobile or otherwise. That's all. It's not one thing. It's many, many, many things. It's still people to people. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So if you understand, if they have a family and they're in a vehicle and they're having some concern, well, let them know you understand that, and that it's important that you get that figured. I think all those little nuances make the whole picture, and that's something you've been extremely successful at doing. And now, we could talk for a couple hours just on retention alone, but there's a paradigm shift taking place in fixed operations. And whether it be the downturn in 2008 or the pandemic, where now it's finally, and moving with technology and retention, all those things going on. And then on top of all that stuff, you got people crying the blues because I want to make sure I get this in, the EV scare. Okay. And I gotta tell you the contrast. So I was running a store when websites first came on the scene with the high-speed ultra AOL dial-up modem. Okay. And then about 6 months to maybe a year later, there was this company that came on the scene that came in to pitch us called AutoVitel and internet leads. Okay. And we had an exclusivity, and this is it. And then 9 out of 10 leads that we got, people would drive 60, 70 hours away, and 9 out of 10 bought cars. Unlike the internet leads of today, it was way different back then. But I remember everybody saying, oh my God, the car business is over. That changes everything. We're going to have to shut our doors down. I see the same thing going on right now with EV. How about you, Ed?
Exactly. Like you said, 20 years ago, I was hearing that noise. EVs, everybody is scared of EVs. I'm embracing it. I love technology. I think it makes it cool to be a technician again, to working on EVs. It's a whole different breed of a person that's going to work on those vehicles. They're easier to work on. We don't have oil leaking everywhere. There's just so many different elements that it brings to the table. So what it really is just change, and we have to embrace the change. But I look forward to it, and we got to make sure. I mean, that's really a pandemic of itself inside of our industry. That it's a shift to where we're going to have our F&I products will shift to how do we put infrastructure in our customers' homes for them to buy that electric vehicle. There's just so much more opportunity there, and what it really tells us is that we can service that many more because they're probably not going to have to see me twice a year. They may only have to see me once a year. I need to make that experience even better at that point.
Right.
But look at how many more I can service because they only have to see me once.
Well, you're embracing that change, and just your attitude when you responded to it is you welcome it because it's just change. And if you don't resist it and you welcome it and watch and listen and learn from it, there's plenty of opportunity and things. Now, it certainly opens up a whole new can of worms because we don't have on advisors and technicians. Okay. I think, people, they don't want to be a mechanic, right? They don't want to be all greasy and oily and smelly and all that kind of stuff. But, I need to go to college and get a degree. So when I come out, I have $500,000 in debt and I can make $70,000 a year. Well, you can do a hell of a lot better as a technician or advisor. Can you not? You don't need a 4-year degree or $500,000 in debt. Is that right?
It is right. I mean, we put so much focus on people going to college, and we need people to go to college, but we also need skilled tradesmen as well.
Right.
The office that you're sitting in, the office that Charity is sitting in, it wouldn't be there if it wasn't for a skilled tradesman. The vehicles that we drive, if it wasn't for skilled personnel, those wouldn't be there. They wouldn't have assembled them. So we need those people as well. And when there's stuff that's new, everybody likes that new shiny stuff. So they chase after it. So that's what's making it cool to be a technician again, because now it's a techie thing. And I think those electric cars are cool. I want to learn about those, and then that becomes their skilled trade. And so it's a shift all the way around. Yes, it's different with the advisors. We have different conversations, but we have to be able to shift and embrace change. And if we can do that, we can make it just what we want it to be.
Yeah, I know. Even people have changed. You got Gen Z and Gen Yers coming into the market, and some people are real reluctant about their needs and their wants and their desires. But they ultimately, they just need to. We just need to understand where they're coming from. They want the same things as we do, generally speaking. But they want to feel like they're a part of and they're contributing to something, but they want some flexibility, and they want good money. Is money the ultimate thing? No, they would probably have a trade-off. So the new technology that's coming with EVs is probably very attractive to a lot of younger people.
I would think so. And I look forward to autonomous coming, and that will shift our business again if that happens, because a vehicle will learn your driving habits. Then all of a sudden, when you have a 6-hour window that you don't drive your vehicle, and it knows that, and it knows it's due for a service, and you have a card tied to it or a subscription tied to it, it fires up in the middle of the night, goes to a service center, gets service, shows back up in your driveway, and it never left, and you got your reoccurring bill that just happens, and it just happens automatically. That's convenient. I look forward to those days. That would scare the crap out of a lot of people.
Well, I really didn't even think about it like you just presented it, but I'm sure there's going to be the naysayers out there too. Oh my God, everything's going to change. I'm not going to be able to survive this. And here we are, anyway, that's because we're forward thinkers. The freedoms that we have, that the foundation and the principles of this country and what it stands for, and that you can live the American dream. You can accomplish what you want to accomplish. Quit listening to people that says you can't do that. I tried that. That won't work, because somebody like Ed Roberts just interrupted those people and said, yes, you can.
Be the trendsetter rather than the trend follower.
There you go. Well,
Ed, we both appreciate having you on today very much, taking the time to spend an hour with us. It's a really wonderful story, hearing all that you've been through. It's really admirable. So We like to give you the floor at the end. Take a couple minutes. Say what you want to say.
Please.
First, I appreciate you guys having me here. And I didn't tell about my backstory for people to think, oh my goodness, look at that. What I really said that for is to say, hey, we all have a story and we can latch onto it and build from it, or we can latch onto it and let us keep us where we're at. And it doesn't matter what we've done to this point. We can all make tomorrow different. We can all make tomorrow what we want it to be, but we have to start working towards that. And we have to set ourselves internal goals and daily goals and celebrate ourselves for some of those things. It's like going to the gym. You go to the gym once, you don't see a change. You go to the gym twice, you don't see a change. You go to the gym 3 times, I'm giving up. Well, it's things that you do over and over and over again that we reap rewards from. And sometimes we have to set those for ourselves. And so don't be afraid to do that. And we can make tomorrow what we want it to be.
Oh my God. So I got to tell you, thank you. That was so awesome. We give everybody, whatever time they want at the end to say whatever they want to say. And it's usually, and rightly so, a little plug, et cetera, maybe a website or email if they have any questions, you can find me here, et cetera. But Ed Roberts talks about the human condition. Ed Roberts talks about rising up and making things happen. And this is the main reason that we wanted you on WTF today. So thank you, Ed Roberts, very much. Thank you, Charity, as well. And thank you to all the WTF listeners out there. You're gonna hear some things that make Ed who he is today. And these are the type of people that I aspire to be like, and all of us should be that way as well. Because if it's part of the equation of success, then success is not just about monetary. Success is about paying it forward. Success is about giving back and leaving something of value instead of just trying to buy something of value. So Ed Roberts, thanks again. And please, everybody out there, find us on, when this is released, you're going to see it everywhere on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. Like it, comment, share on it, and let us know how we did. And thank you once again, Ed, for your time today.
Thank you. It's been a great honor.
Thank you. Come on, Nico. That's what it's all about right there, Ed.
That is exactly what it's all
about.
It
is. Kids are awesome, and grandkids are even more awesome.